Hey everyone, thank you for joining us on the Mayor's Table. On today's episode, we have the newly appointed Field Office Director for the Bureau of Land Management, Maureen Joe. We're going to be talking about our public lands, the uses, how to be prepared when you're going out there, and the importance of local stewardship. Hey everyone, welcome to the Mayor's Table. I'm Farmington Mayor Nate Duckett, and with me today we've got a special guest from the Bureau of Land Management. It's our new Field Office Manager, Maureen Joe. Maureen, welcome to the Mayor's Table.
Thank you and good morning.
Yes, it's excellent to have you here. We've been wanting to have this discussion with a representative from the Bureau of Land Management for a long time. Obviously, as we've kind of come together as a community that's emphasizing outdoor recreation, and when only 6% of your land is private, much of that is now, of course, it's public land or tribal land, or so we're kind of an island in regards to that. So bringing on somebody from the Bureau of Land Management has been a key for us because we'd like to talk a little bit about the rules and guidelines and maybe educate our user groups on the do's and don'ts of operating in the glade. And there's obviously a number of areas that are public lands that we are currently focused on, not just the glade, Bistai Badlands, Danazin, Anishinaabe, all those areas also. So, Maureen, I'm glad you're here, and I know you're brand new, so this is going to be great.
Yeah, thank you so much, and thank you for welcoming myself here on your show.
Yeah. So, Maureen, tell us a little bit about yourself. I know you've been on the job now for 2 months, but you've got an extensive experience in dealing with public lands.
I do. I started off my career in oil and gas with private industry. I started off at that point. It was Hickson Development Company, and then that they got bought out by Giant Exploration and Production. And then I moved over to Meridian. They got bought out by Burlington Resources, and now they're Hillcorp. So I started my career in private industry and then moved over to federal agency with the Office of Natural Resource Revenue, doing audit work for oil and gas, and then moved over into the Bureau of Land Management, and then I came back out to the Bureau of Indian Affairs as their Federal Indian Minerals Office Director, and now I'm back over with BLM as their field manager.
That is an extensive resume.
It's been quite a ride, and I'm really enjoying my time back with BLM.
Hopefully it's fun. I mean, so for the part that we play and the way the city and BLM and county we're really focused on the fun parts of land management, public land management. And that's trying to make it accessible for individuals to get out there and recreate. I mean, that's kind of what our angle has been. And I think the last 4 years, we've been very fortunate in that partnership with the county, Bureau of Land Management, and the city, is we have seen a lot of projects come to fruition, a lot of new trail signs, campgrounds, things that we have been talking about for years and years are now happening. So it's an exciting time, Maureen, for you to be in the Farmington field office, and I'm hopeful that we'll continue to see these opportunities grow, and we continue to develop that out there.
I'm really excited too. Since I've left BLM and now that I'm back after 4 years, I'm really excited with all of the stuff that's been happening. When I had left BLM here a few years back, the travel management plan for the Glade area had just been signed, and I wanted the implementation part of it to start. And coming back, I've seen some of those implementation have already taken place. And as you said, there's quite a bit of bike routes, bike trails that have been established with collaboration with other entities, with the city of Farmington, with Game and Fish, with the county. So I'm really excited.
We are too. And I wonder, just as an overview, how many acres are managed within the Farmington field office for all the BLM responsibility?
We have a little over 1 million acres of surface, and we have a little over 2 million of subsurface acres that we manage.
That is amazing. And how many people do you have to help manage that 1 million acre area?
Right now, the office is going through a little bit of change with the pandemic, the onset of pandemic, and with just a lot of retirement happening. We've lost quite a bit of people. At one point, there was a little over 150 staffing, and we're less than that. But we are working in with the Human Resource Department out of the state office in Santa Fe in getting those vacancies filled as quickly as we're able to.
Well, I think you're in the same boat as probably the rest of us when it comes to the staffing. And I've actually met a young man the other day who had said he had started school and he was going into petroleum engineering, and then he ended up getting out of it. And I said, look, you need to stick with it. We need some high-skilled labor force here in our area, and I'm sure those are some of those jobs that you're looking for up there at the BLM as well. So I'm trying to encourage people, stay in school. Right now, school is free. College education's free in New Mexico. It's a great time to kind of put your nose to the grindstone and go out and achieve.
Yes, we are really happy, and we're going to have vacancies out for geologists, engineers, natural resource specialists, realty specialists. So we have quite a bit. So keep your eyes out on that USA.gov.
Yeah. Well, and there's an email that I've signed up for somehow that talks about all the job openings. So it seems like every day, would you like to work for the Bureau of Land Management? Would you like to work for San Juan County? So it's been a good way for me to kind of stay in touch with who's looking for jobs, which is everybody. I mean, that's just where we're at right now. Well, interesting. So a lot of folks who are out there in the area, they may be surprised to know that it's 1 million acres that are kind of the oversight from the Farmington field office. But one of the big issues we always face when we're trying to grow something good is dealing with some of the negative things. And much of the finger pointing, so to speak, is there's a lack of enforcement because we have such a wide area for you all, such a broad area that you have to oversee, that when it comes to the enforcement part, we're very limited on staff and, of course, what their resources are and where they can be at any given time.
You're absolutely correct. So we currently have 1 law enforcement on staff, and we have 1 special agent on staff. We're currently looking for another law enforcement to oversee this 1 million acres in the area. However, we're very fortunate that the law enforcement department collaborates not only with the city of Farmington, but with San Juan County,
right,
as well as the other counties. You have McKinley County, you have Rio Arriba, and Sandoval County, and they work really, really well together. And on top of that, you have the Park Service Rangers, and you have the Navajo Nation Police Department, and the various chapter officials. So we do and work really, really hard with all of our community partners to ensure that the safety of the people is first and foremost in
Absolutely.
Our mission.
Well, I think there's one year I saw coming out of the academy where the individuals who had just graduated, where they were being hired for. Game and Fish has got quite an extensive group of law enforcement agents here in the state, and I kept thinking, man, we could use some of those guys over here on our side to help us with our enforcement issues. So well, that's good to know. So you're looking at adding an additional person, so that would be a special agent and 2 law enforcement
Yes.
officers? Okay. That's good to know. All right. We obviously, things that are closest to us are the areas that we're most interested in. You had mentioned the travel management plan for the Glade Run had just been signed off on, before you had left, and now you're back. A lot of folks have asked, in regards to that history, because they call it the spaghetti bowl is kind of how they look at the Glade. It's a spaghetti bowl of users. They're overlapping in certain areas, and it makes it difficult at times to help us differentiate, for folks that are on a mountain bike, to keep the OHVs off those mountain bike trails. Are there any, I would say, advice that you could provide or insight or guidelines to those different kind of user groups that might help them manage, when they're out there together?
Well, one thing is that on our e-planning site, on our blm.gov webpage, we have an e-planning site there. And so there you have the travel management plan that's posted out there, so it wouldn't hurt to go through that and review that. It gives you the different trail routes and what's allowed and what isn't allowed. The other thing that I have found so useful is when I went out with my law enforcement agent, and he showed me this app on the phone, which is Carry Map. And it really outlines exactly whether you're in a shooting area or non-shooting area, whether you're in a restricted area or not. It gives you the whole information. So I thought that was really good. That's right on point. Wherever you're standing, wherever you're at, it gives you that information.
And say the name of the app again?
Carry Map.
Carry Map. There's so many apps out there. That's one I've not heard of. So we'll make sure people see that. Carry, C-A-R-Y, Map.
Exactly,
All
yes.
right. We'll make sure we talk about that. That'll be useful, especially in those areas. And we've a couple years ago, there was a situation that occurred over kind of by the Twin Peaks area, dealing with an unauthorized mountain bike trail, and that's a long conversation we could have about unauthorized trails, which pop up quite a bit, in an area that had been historically used for target shooting. Mm-hmm. And there are those areas that exist. As I understand, in the Glade, however, there is no shooting allowed in the Glade area. Is that accurate?
That's true.
Okay.
That's true.
I think that's good for folks to understand that there are areas of Bureau of Land Management that can be used for target shooting, but Glade Run is not one of those areas. And so we encourage folks to seek out, and I think Carry Map would be a good tool then to see where they could go to do target shooting.
I find that that's really a good tool. Like I said, our law enforcement agent is the one who showed me the map, and as I was out driving around with him, that's one of the things that he uploaded onto my cell phone, and we were testing it out, and it's really a great application.
Great. The different uses that we're dealing with here, is there anything outside of the things we've mentioned? There's mountain biking trails. Of course, those we've seen extensive projects being completed to not just extend the trails, but also improve. We've added some really neat features for mountain bikers. Of course, we've done the East Glade Mountain Bike Park, which is up off of North Foothills in the Calibri area. Mm-hmm. Beautiful parking lot that's associated with that. The city and the county in this year's next fiscal year's budget, we both have agreed to split the cost to put in a vault toilet for that facility as well. Mm-hmm. So again, we're trying to add those amenities that if you're coming to Farmington to enjoy this outdoor recreation that we talk about, we want to make sure that you have some of those additional components associated with it. We have the OHV, which we've seen new signs going up around, and I know we've got a couple user groups that have been assisting with those as well. I think there's the Cliffhangers group, always doing a great job, and now we have the Choke Cherry Crawlers. Mm-hmm. And then on the mountain bike side, the Farmington Area Single Track group has also been working and collaborating together with you all. So that's good news too. Just so you know, Maureen, that's been one of our angles we've really been pushing, is to get the user groups to organize, because we've seen the results, positive results of those things happening in places like Moab. And what's interesting for our user groups here is they're always looking at Farmington based on what they see going on in Moab. And how do we bring in the resources to our Farmington field office that we see in the Moab office that are dedicated to recreation? So that may be a subject we get into here in a minute, but I think it's just good for folks to understand we are limited in that regard as compared to other field offices, which is why there's so much great collaboration happening and why user groups play such an important role.
No, they've done great. From what I've seen just recently, the mountain bikers as well as the crawlers had actually gone into the Glade and they did a cleanup. So it's not only about inventorying trails, or just having fun out there. It's also about making sure that things that are vandalized or illegal dumping, that they're going out there and cleaning things up. So I'm very appreciative of that.
San Juan County created a great app for, I think it's called Clean Up San Juan County. We've utilized that, quite a bit, especially when it comes to those dump sites. That's kind of the main focus of that app. But also graffiti. Graffiti's been an ongoing issue out there for as long as I've lived here in the area. But folks need to know there are times where you will report things that don't necessarily get cleaned up right away, but that doesn't mean you should stop reporting it.
No, I totally agree with that. And we do have a group of in-house individuals. Whenever there's any type of graffiti, they go out there and they clean it up.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to hold you to that because
there are
some areas out there that...
We do have guys out there, and they clean up as much as they're able to. And so right now we are in need of some extra equipment to make sure that the equipment that they're using is able to wash off all of the graffiti.
Well, and people would, I talked a little bit ago about unauthorized trails or unauthorized uses out there, and they may not understand that there's a lot of archaeology out there in the glade and in the public lands that surround this area. I mean, the civilization has been here for a long, long time, and in many of these areas, you're on some, what could have been a homestead. It could have been, some ruins. I mean, you're in a place, and that's why archaeology and the different studies that are required to authorize a trail. I mean, folks think they can just go out there and create a trail wherever they want. That's not what we're trying to do. We want to do it responsibly. And the Bureau of Land Management helps oversee some of that process, but there are costs associated with that. And one of those is the NEPA studies to make sure that we're not on really important areas that we need to protect. Maybe you could talk a little bit about how that process of getting authorized trails, because we have maps out there that have trails that are not designated trails, but they've been there for a long, long time. And I know to some degree we've looked at going back in and how do we designate some of those older trails since they're there. There's obviously pushback from some agencies, which again is another interesting component. The number of people who can put comments into those opportunities to build trails, I mean, it's like 157 different groups that can comment on that. So how does one go about if they're interested in designated trail? What would they need to do?
It's within the field office, it's really hard to process some of the permits or the proposals that come through the office because, of course, we have to go through all of the NEPA aspect of it as well as tribal consultation, and that entails a lot of work on the back end of it. When we have a proposal that comes in for a proposed trail, then that goes through, of course, our internal review with all of the different resource specialists, and we have to do cultural reviews, we have to do biological reviews, and of course we have to do tribal consultation. We have to make sure that there are no, as you said, sites that are either burial sites, and of course you mentioned that there's people that have lived in this area for a long, long time, and of course at that time we have also people that had been buried just across. So just out of respect for those things that are found out there, we have to make sure through our NEPA process that those things are taken care of and looked and reviewed, just to ensure that we're not trespassing over things that we shouldn't be trespassing. But mostly the proposal will come in, we have to go through our NEPA process and then go through all the biological, the cultural aspect of it, go through the scoping side of things and just tie things up. And that can take anywhere from, 6 months to a year, just depending upon the comments that we receive back and what's found out there. So it's just mainly just going through the NEPA process.
And within that process, the BLM does not have a budget for new trail NEPAs, do they? To do those types of.
So internally, depending upon what the project is and specific to a trail, then we'll go through all of the NEPA internally. So that budget comes out of our office, and we allocate a certain amount to ensure that these projects continue to move forward. But a lot of it is just working with the outdoor recreation specialists who are the technical expertise out there as to whether, okay, this is viable or this isn't viable type deal. So a lot of it is just the internal stuff, and BLM picks up all of that cost.
If I was a user group that was organized and we had an area that we were interested in putting in a loop trail system, we could fill out an application but we could also bring money to that table too to say, look, we're willing to pay for those studies. Does that help you guys in that regards?
It does. With any aspect of our program, so within the federal government, we're allocated a certain amount of funding. Any other funding, working through a grant or working through other avenues, really does help us to look at things a little bit more closely, and it really does help with the limited resource staff that we currently have.
And that's that public-private partnership that we really need, and the Bureau of Land Management desperately needs it if we're going to continue to responsibly grow the outdoor recreation that occurs in our public land areas. Would you agree with that?
I totally agree with that.
Are there any other plans that you can speak to that would grow any additional recreation areas out there? I mean, we've seen, even from Alien Run to the Bisti, we've seen some pavilions that have gone up. We've seen some vault toilets that have been placed out there, the East Glade Bike Park. So we've seen some really cool stuff happening. Is there anything else that you know of that's going to be coming up here soon?
Well, we're looking at completing phase 3 of the trail management plan within Glade, which is extending that Kinsey, rerouting that Kinsey Trail back to the Cali Norte scale set area, where both you and the city of Farmington and the San Juan County has contributed quite a bit of funding to ensure that that's built in, following rules, regulations, and policies
Sure.
as well. The other thing that we're looking at is possibly doing some camping sites out south of here, south of Farmington. But other than that, we're always willing to bring on other projects that people bring in, just to ensure that we're looking at all aspects of recreation.
Well, that's interesting. That's good to hear. And that the rerouting of the Kinsey Trail essentially would be taking that trail where right now part of it goes into private land. Mm-hmm. It would be then basically taking that down straight to that East Glade Bike Park, correct?
Yeah, outside of that
Okay.
private land.
And is that a part of that? I think it was a $300,000 grant
Yes.
that the county received.
Yes, it is.
Okay, good. All right, that's good to know. All right, we have an outdoor pledge that we've created here at the city of Farmington that deals directly with kind of taking personal accountability and responsibility when you're out there in these public land areas or any of our parks, any of these spaces. And it talks about make sure if you pack it in, pack it out, ideals, respecting people who are out there on the trails. If I'm on a mountain bike and somebody's on an OHV, we need to be able to get along in these areas and respect each other's space. Coming prepared, being prepared when you go out and specifically any of these areas, but being prepared when you go out to a place like Bisti. Really important that you understand the area that you're going into. How long do you plan on being out there? Do you have enough water? Have you packed sunshade? Do you have, if you're bringing your dog with you, have you packed your dog, those essential items also? Those are things we'd like to see reinforced, certainly from the BLM side. As we continue to attract people to this area, we've created the wayfinding signs, which I'm sure you've seen around town, that kind of points people to where these attractions are at. But is there anything you would say in comments to folks? The issues that you guys face on a regular basis out there and managing these areas in an appropriate way?
One of the things that I'm finding since I've come on board 2 months ago is that we've already had 2 individuals that had gotten lost or they were misdirected in the Bisti, Danasin wilderness area. So it's really important that they always carry a map. We all know that there's limited cell service in that area, and as always, come in layers because you don't know about the weather here in the Southwest.
Sure.
You get up in the morning and it's warm, and by mid-afternoon it's very hot, and then when you get back into late evening it gets pretty cool. So I'll always carry a map, always let someone know that you're going out there, where you're going, and what you're going to be doing and when you expect to be back. Where you're parking, because there's 2 different places where you can park when you're entering Bisti, Danasin area. And of course, plenty of water. It's really important, and always have some type of backup plan. Put maps in your vehicle, on your vehicle. We're doing the best we can from an agency standpoint. We want to, because the area is primitive and it's a primitive wilderness area, we can't put trail sites out there. We have to keep it as primitive as possible so that people can get that experience of wanting to be in an area where They want to isolate themselves. They want to reconnect with nature. They want to think things through. So that's the experience that most people are wanting. And of course, we have out-of-state visitors that are coming in. With the onset of pandemic, we have seen quite a bit of increase to all these different areas as well as the recreation areas. We have all of these people coming in from California, from Colorado, and from Tennessee. We saw a plate from Tennessee the other day. So it's just, we are bringing people in, and you're absolutely correct. We have to work together collaboratively to make sure that we watch out for the safety of those people that are coming in to visit with us. And we try to do our best from an agency standpoint to have things available for them. Currently, we're working on some pamphlets for these different areas. It's a matter of timing to get all of those out, because our pamphlets are a little bit out of date and we need to get them all updated on things. We're also working on putting up more signage in the Glade area. We're working through quite a bit. It's been a little bit overloaded for the last 2 months, just to make sure that these things are addressed, and we're putting in a plan and working with the rec specialist to ensure that we do these things.
Well, those are all really important, and I'm glad to hear about the pamphlets for the Denazin and Bistai area. It's such an incredible, unique component of this part of New Mexico, part of the world. As I understand it, and we did a mayor's table out there, it's been 4 years now, and I think we went out with one of your geologists who may have retired, but she gave us a fantastic tour and explained all the different layers of dirt and what is the event, the Q?
Hoodoos?
No, there was the event when the meteor hit off of Mexico and ended up wiping out the dinosaurs. There's a layer that's out there that is the most exposed area of that layer of dirt anywhere in the world. Dealing with the Q, I'm crazy. I can't think about it.
Sorry.
That's okay. That's all right. But just the number of incredible landscapes and just seeing how the area that used to be a swamp and kind of the component of the inland sea, and how all that has weathered over time and left. I mean, there's huge conifer trees laying on top of these mesas, and how did a conifer tree end up, petrified in this area?
Well, they've actually excavated in 1988 a Tyrannosaurus, and so that's out at the New Mexico Museum right now. So
the Bistai beast.
The Bistai beast, yes.
And I think they just got one out of Ashishnapa as well. 2 or 3 years ago that they were excavating out there, and I can't remember exactly which kind of dinosaur it was, but anytime those things happen, I'm just so amazed to think that these beasts roamed the land, or that was a swamp, and
yeah, that whole area. I mean, you pick up one of those petrified wood, and you're thinking, wow, how does this, from a plant base to a solid base, how does this all happen through the many years?
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned that point, picking up the petrified wood. Another component of what, of course, federal lands people talk about is leave it where it lays. Pick it up, look at it, but don't take it with you. And there's a lot of those artifacts out there that are a part of that land, and we want to keep it in those lands. Correct?
That's absolutely correct. Yeah.
All right. Maureen, I really appreciate you taking the time to come out here and helping us talk a little bit about the Bureau of Land Management, the history. Certainly encourage individuals who are out there recreating. We want you out there recreating. The wilderness designation that lies with Denazin and with Bistai, that wilderness designation means we can't put signs out there. We can't create big, wide trails. But there are trails that exist because people have obviously been out there for a long time. And I always advise people stay on the trails. People have put little markers with rocks to help guide you where you're at. But I think it's important that if you have any knowledge of those areas and you're out there and you see people, be neighborly. You just having a conversation on the trail might help somebody who could be lost to find their way back or where they need to go. So it's important that we be neighborly in that regard.
No, I totally agree. I've always said that this is our backyard. We all were born and raised here, and with anything, we have our own home, and we go out into our backyard, and we're very proud of what it looks like back there. So at a bigger scale, holistically, if we look out to the Bistye or to the Glade, I mean, that's our backyard. We have to take care of our backyard. So with vandalism, with illegal dumping, all of that, I mean, we have to do be held accountable to make sure that we keep things clean. I mean, not only for us, but our future generation. From the BLM standpoint, I would like to continue to have this collaborative relationship, not only with the city of Farmington, but with San Juan County, the community members, as well as all of our indigenous community members, and with all the different other agencies. We have a lot of work ahead of us, but if we do it right and if we work together, we can accomplish a lot as a team rather than as one.
Completely agree. I think we've seen the fruits of that labor over the last 4 years, and we appreciate that partnership. And some folks wish things would move quicker than what they can move, but government doesn't move very quick. There's a lot of processes that have to be completed in order to approve certain things or do certain things, and budgets that must be respected in that regard. So we do appreciate that that you all are at the table with us. And I think that's important for people to know. You're at the table with us, you're listening, and I know I have direct connections if there are concerns that are brought to me. Your staff does a fantastic job. I want to give you kudos. The individuals that you have working for you that are interacting with the public, they do a really good job. So we appreciate it also.
Thank you. They have a lot invested in their job, and they take pride in what they do, so I really appreciate that. And they have nothing but good things to say with all of the partners that they have, and they are currently working with and hoping to work with continuously throughout.
Wonderful. Well, Maureen, anything else you want to add before I make a final point?
I don't. Thank you so much for the invite and for our chatting this morning.
Yeah, well, congratulations again on your newest appointment, and we know you're going to do a great job for us, so thank you for doing what you do.
Thank you, and I continue to look forward to having this relationship, and I hope we accomplish a lot.
Me as well. Well, for all of our viewers out there, anybody who is a part of those user groups out in our public lands area, we simply ask you to be responsible for what is yours. If you're going out there, pack it in, pack it out. Take all of your trash that goes with you. You got to take it back home with you. If you're out there and you're target shooting, take your targets with you. Pick up your shells off the ground. These are things that impact what other people's view as their backyard, as Maureen said. These are our public lands. We need to take care of them. We need to respect them because it's not just going to be for our use, it's going to be for future use also. Make sure you're taking advantage of the Carry Map app that we just talked about. Look that up, see how that can best assist you when you're out in our public lands, as well as the other numerous trail apps that are out there that are available to you. Plan appropriately when you go out into the public areas. Make sure that if you bring an animal with you, make sure you're planning appropriately for them as well. We don't want any tragedies here happening in our public lands area, things that we have seen happen in other places throughout the country because people weren't prepared. Let's be smarter than that. Let's make sure we're prepared. And when you see somebody on the trail, take a moment to say hello, see where they're going, see if you can help them out. So thank you for tuning in. We know you'll be responsible out there. Let's keep growing the good things that are happening here in our area, and it's up to us to do it right. Thanks again for tuning in. We'll see you next time.